Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Well-Crafted Man. Of course, it is me, Nick, and here Spencer as well, the expert. And today we are talking about something really fun. It is old man wisdom, and not just the funny, depraved things that your grandpa would say. It's something that's been passed down through generations from man to man that imparts wisdom, something that's helpful, something that may have impacted you or changed the way you perceive things in your life. And more than that, mentorship and
Yeah,
initiations.
I think it's more. It adds up it adds up to more than just the sum of its parts.
Yes,
Where it's not just like little tidbits of things that your grandpa passed down, but it's actually like having that relationship and having that bond, and someone to kind of depend on like that, who's been through it before, is incredibly powerful and
yes.
really
What does
helpful.
it mean to receive that information from somebody who has had these experiences?
Or now, I mean, I'm in my 30s now. What does it mean to give that? I'm working with teenagers, and a lot of them, they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a continual progression.
Yeah,
It's imparted into us, and then and the only responsible thing to do with that information is to
share
continue
it with the
that,
world. Share it with the
continue
world.
that.
Get yourself a podcast that nobody listens to, and just shout it into the void, and then maybe somebody will hear it.
Someone out there.
Thrift Books, sponsor us. Give me money.
I got my free book coming in. Well, not yet, but I haven't picked it yet. But I've earned it.
If you earn enough points with thriftbooks.com, you will get a free book. How exciting is that, listeners?
I'm pretty excited. All me and you who listen to this later.
Woo! Thrift Books. All right. So more than just the sum of its parts. That being said, there are some fun old-timey sayings, and I think they reflect a lot about what the person who said them. So do you have that list ready?
I do. I have.
The one that I like was the Teddy Roosevelt. Was it Teddy Roosevelt or FDR? It said, speak softly but carry a big stick.
That was Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah,
Just
that was
walk
a very
quietly,
Teddy Roosevelt thing to say.
carry a big stick. That quote is a little special to me as well, because the fun part about this old man wisdom is, although it was spoken by Teddy Roosevelt, I actually heard that from my dad, and it was a bit of wisdom that he imparted on me when I was having problems with getting into fights with people out front of my house or behind my house. The people who I felt were intruders, at least trespassing in what I claim as my territory.
Yeah.
And I was getting into trouble with the police when fighting these people, because the laws are
Tends to happen.
kind of funny. Yeah, I'm the one who gets in trouble for trying to defend my area. So my dad imparted that wisdom onto me: is walk quietly but carry a big stick. And I took that my own way, and I get into fights a lot less, and these people don't really come around my house at all anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think that's
they'll just
something
drive
that
by
happens
real quick.
as you get older. You kind of calm down, and you aren't so quick to act on impulse of aggression. You reminded me of General Mattis, who had an amazing military career.
The Mad Dog.
It's something that I misunderstood when I first heard it. But when I first heard it, I was a lot younger, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's awesome," But now I kind of understand what he really meant. He said, "Be polite, be professional, but have a plan to kill everybody you meet."
Awesome.
Yeah, it's like the man's the definition of a warrior poet. He's awesome, but I realize now that I'm older and I'm not, playing Call of Duty 20 hours a day, that he didn't mean literally killing people. He meant like have a plan to get through the murkiness, because people can be petty and people can be cruel.
Yeah,
So,
especially in his position too. He was dancing the dance of the courts, right? Like
yeah, at the
he had to
highest
maneuver
level.
politically.
Yeah, he was a infantry general forever. So he could very well have meant have a plan to murder everyone, but
Could have a
I
dual
think it
meaning.
more applies to like keep your cards close to your chest, but be able to take control if you have to.
I like that. That's a good one. On the topic of military quotes, one that I really enjoy came from Dwight Eisenhower when he was talking about D-Day. He said, "Plans are completely useless, but planning is indispensable." And I think of that frequently. I use that everywhere. Because I always plan out everything I do, almost like compulsively, and I'll think of contingencies and whatever. I think that comes from my history in playing chess. Is as a little kid, I was in that state of mind, learning how to play chess, and I just stayed that way for everything in life. And nothing ever goes the way I plan. All the different ways that I think of the possibilities, it almost always takes its own shape. But that quote is fantastic, at least within me.
Well, and if you get really good at planning, then you get really fast at planning. So when your original plan doesn't work, being able to shift into a new mindset, into a new plan, doesn't phase you as much because you very quickly can connect A, B, C, and D and just move forward in that new direction.
Absolutely. I think that's probably what he meant by that. I mean, he's talking about D-Day, like there was plenty of beaches.
And a bunch of stuff went wrong.
Yeah, that completely the plans fell apart, but you adjust accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the fact that we immediately started talking about military made me think of this sort of mentorship and manhood thing and how it's I've thought about it a little bit, but it's legitimately built into the structure of the complex in that, you have the privates who are at the bottom and they just all they do is take orders. All they do is, and then slowly but surely you gain a little bit more autonomy and a little bit more responsibility. But they do it by time in service and by like achievements, like there's a point system. And it's literally like when you've developed yourself through getting orders from people, doing that job well, that's when you're able to do that for other people. And I think that applies into the real world very well, actually. It's just a much less linear system. Even when I graduated infantry school, there was like this ceremony, which is important for men. I can't quite say why. Like I can't put my finger on why a ceremony is so important to us, but it really is.
It's like a physical manifestation of the initiation, right? It's the actual thing that says this is crossing a threshold.
Yeah. And we did this big ceremony that was like super cheesy and hokey, but it meant a lot to a lot of people because it's like where you're out of infantry school and you're officially like a soldier, you've entered into this new phase of manhood, which is especially relevant because they do their best to tear you down into a childlike state when you're in boot camp, and then when you're in your MOS school, they build you back up into the tool that they want you to be. So it's kind of cool. I don't know where I was going with that, but
I think because we were talking about military, we're talking about great men. So this started out as old man wisdom, or this whole episode is old man wisdom, but I think we were drawn to the quotes that came from the quotes that came from men who did something to look up to, and that speaks to the whole craving of a proper mentor, somebody to guide us through towards initiation into manhood. I don't think I've properly made that transition yet.
I have been so thirsty for a good mentor. You can have a mentor at any point in your life because you can always improve. And all of my 20s, I was like, man, I wish I just had someone in this business that was smarter than me and would help me and wouldn't judge me for stupid questions. I've never had it, not once.
Where's my Gandalf? Where's my where's my Dumbledore? Where's the great wizard to guide me along this?
Yeah.
Where are these archetypes in my life? And I think all men crave that and they seek it. I mean, my little brother and his friends, they'll hang on every word I have to say, and a lot of times I don't have anything good to say.
But so you think you don't have anything good to say, but it's more than they've experienced, so you've got it. Even if my problem I run into, and it's a lot of my own arrogance, but I'll find like a older figure at a job or something, and immediately realize like I'm smarter than this person. They're here. But I've also worked a lot of low-level jobs. So through my school, I've met some very good mentor people, but no one that I feel comfortable enough to like think of a stupidest question possible and not feel judged in bringing it to them.
Yeah, I guess so. To segue into using mentorship, when I was collecting a lot of these quotes, and for everybody out there, I did quite a bit of research. I asked dozens of other men, strangers to me, and some I knew, about what old man wisdom did they have. And it was a very interesting experience. And I'm going to continue doing it because it was a lot of fun too. It was broken up. It was like 50-50. Half of everybody I asked didn't have anything. And then the other half had one or two. It came from like my dad, my grandpa, my uncle, whatever. Of the two groups, the ones who didn't have that sort of relationship with a male figure in their lives had a lot of similarities among each other. They were not the kind of guys that like exude confidence.
Mm-hmm.
They don't carry themselves with their own space, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like a non-physical but easily viewable barrier or your bubble.
I think about it as like the kind of guy who walks into a room and immediately owns it without being over the top, without being crazy. It's just they are dripping with that sort of masculine confidence.
Yeah, they weren't that dude. And of them also in that group who were in some position of power, because I still have a day job, so I'm asking people at work. They were the most likely to utilize that power in a way that benefits themselves, belittling other people, whether that be colleagues or strangers. They're put on that tie and they're like, I'm the man now. But in reality, they're completely lost. And I can make that distinction too, because of the men of equal power who had the quotes, they are much more in tune with teaching other people things, saying, hey, you did this, but this is probably a better way to maneuver. I will do this for you. And they could take on a level of mentorship and leadership for others, because they had some that came from, like they didn't just come up with it on their own. Yeah. That's why they had a fun bit of male wisdom that had been brought down to them.
Greater than the sum of their parts. Like they had that relationship, and so they're willing to give that relationship to other people.
Absolutely. And that sort of distinction between the two different groups of men who had and had not, I think it makes a really good point to how important those sorts of things are for the male development.
Those relationships are incredibly important. I know we talked about this before. So in Robert Bly, who I quote all the time, Iron John, he makes this important distinction that throughout the majority of human history, sons learn trades from their fathers. Even up until like through the Industrial Revolution, if my dad made shoes, then as soon as I was old enough to carry whatever shoemaking tool, I was in there helping him and I was working with him. And you don't just, you're not quiet all day. You don't not talk. So you lots of things get passed on, and that relationship, the evidence of it echoes out. And the same thing happens on the negative end of the spectrum. We do these things called geneagrams that are, I think that's the right word.
What is that?
Geneagram. Um, it's like a family tree, but you look at mental health disorders. So it's like this person over here had alcoholism or was an alcoholic. And then you can see it in the kids, and you can see it here, and then you can see like, oh, this is a traumatic incident that this person went through, and then their kids have it, and then, and then you can see where like one person takes a stand and is like, I'm not going to drink, and then maybe their kids pick it back up again or something. So you can see how these relationships echo out throughout the family line, both good and bad. Because a lot of times it just takes one person who can kind of cut that off through the family. Reaction to trauma is tough too, though, because that kind of throws a wrench in things.
Yeah, I mean, it's not all clean cut here.
No, yeah.
Everybody is different.
It is interesting to see European families around like 1940s, 1930s, 1940s, and see how that affects them. It's fascinating, and it's not good. Obviously,
I consider myself lucky because although I didn't see what my dad did, and my dad did a bunch of different things. He was the guy who was skilled in everything but master of none. He
jack of all trades.
A bunch of things. Yeah, jack of all trades. And he would tell me to be that way also. I'm kind of taking it in a different realm right now. I guess I know how to do a lot of stuff, but I think specialization is important. However, I still had something like that with my dad. When he wasn't at work, he just had odd jobs, side jobs to take care of us, and I would go with him on those. And I'd learn how to put up drywall. I'd learn how to build a fence. That wasn't as extensive as the shoemaker and the shoemaker's son becoming the next shoemaker, but it was still something.
It is something, yeah.
Just doing something with your dad to that can be helpful for you, and not necessarily your dad, just anybody who would be your mentor in whatever that is.
Yeah, in whatever context. I've noticed that the internet has taken up that mantle, at least for me personally. I'm sure with other people, but it's like, if I want to know how to sink an anchor into drywall, if I want to know how to find a stud, if I didn't know that, I would not call my dad. I would
YouTube now.
I would YouTube.
Yeah.
There's even a YouTube channel, pretty big one called, I think, Dad, How Do I? And it's this guy who's a dad who's just like, here's how you tie a tie, here's how you shave. And
that's genius.
Reaching out to people he's reaching out to people who either don't have good relationships with their fathers or don't have fathers.
We gotta get this dude on our channel. We gotta talk to this guy. He'd be a fun one to talk to.
We're gonna get more than 5 followers first. Actually, we have 8, so we have to get more than 10 followers first.
Good for us.
Yeah.
Hey, if you guys are new here, we're almost at that great threshold of 10. Please sign up and subscribe.
Behold my genius.
So we can start talking about the lack of, and we kind of touched on it a second ago, but the lack of, proper mentorship. Like, although YouTube and the internet can kind of hold that up, they're holding it with one hand. It's not fully supported.
Yeah.
And it's very evident how this is craved by men. Of all the guys that I asked for this old man wisdom, some of those who had no relationship with their dads or their grandpas or anything good like that still had some from someone else that they would call their mentor. I have one quote. It was, don't worry about what others think about you because they don't think much about you anyway. And that was given to this guy named Matt, and it was given to him by his business mentor. And that word kept coming up. It was like a big buzzword, mentor.
Yeah.
Although it wasn't my dad. He had no real relationship with his dad or his grandfather or anything like that. But he later in life had a mentor in this business endeavor that he was on, who imparted that sort of information onto him.
All it takes is one person who isn't going to judge you for not knowing something. That's it. It can make a huge difference between someone who's clinically depressed and going to kill themselves to someone who's like clinically depressed but hopeful. It's huge. Changes everything.
The importance. Yeah, the importance of mentorship and where the mentor can lead you, for example, trying to get you towards some sort of initiation, the passage through towards, greater manhood, and doesn't necessarily have to be vocalized like that. But
theory around, sorry, I interrupted you. I'm trying not to do that. The theory around what we're talking about, what you were just touching on, is why these alt-right like militias are so easily able to recruit people, because that's exactly what these young moldable minds are looking for, and they offer that.
Yeah, that's a
poison under the surface.
Yeah, that's a great example of the dangers of the lack of masculine initiation, mentorship that brings you there. Whether you think about it or not, you crave that. And by you, I mean like you in general. And women do too, but in their own feminine ways. But for here, we're talking about men. So as a man, that's always been there. And for me, looking back on my own time, like through teenagehood and on, although I had some with my dad, finding somebody wiser than me was important. Learning more from somebody who was better was important. And it still is. I take it even in the gym. Like, even though in the gym I'm not talking to anybody, I do better when there are bigger, better athletes in the gym. If there's no one there, like, I'll go through my motions and do what I got to do. I still get it done, but it's better when someone better is there. And maybe it's like not a seeking of acceptance, but
self-acceptance.
Yeah, I mean, I feel better about myself if you get that sort of good feedback from above you. Like, how important it is for your dad to say, "I'm proud of you."
Yeah.
For me, anyway. I don't think I heard that until I was like, until after I bought a house. I was like 23, and I remember hearing it. I was like, that is all I've wanted for so long.
These young guys are exactly what you're talking about. They're spiraling. They have all this like masculine charge that they don't know where to putting it into the computer, putting it into video games. It's not enough for them because they need something. And then they have no sense of belonging or purpose. And then suddenly there's this cool, charismatic, older dude who knows what they're going through. He's able to listen. He's able to pay attention to them. And then he says, "You are important and you belong. And I am so proud of you. Here's a rifle."
Bam. That's how it's done.
You've got a militia of very young people who can do whatever they want, or a terrorist group or whatever. It's textbook like cult behavior.
It's amazing, right? And it's amazing how dangerous that is, because the one who's recruiting them could essentially be just an older version of them. Never had that initiation, never had made that full development. He's just now, 45, talking to the 21-year-old.
And knows how to manipulate those 21-year-olds, yeah.
Because he is them up here, right?
But on the other side of it, you're at work or whatever, and there's an older guy who's like, you're having a tough day, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And, he talks to you, and he doesn't have malcontent. He doesn't want anything out of you, but he's just there to help you. And how powerful that is to have that business mentor relationship where they're like, "Yeah, I'm really proud of you. This is really tough. I've been there and I understand, but you'll get through it and I'll help you if you need it." So without the maliciousness, that can be extremely powerful.
Absolutely. And old man wisdom, as good as it can be for all the benefits that it has, I mean, it's not all of it is great. There's plenty of bad ones out there. Particularly
so complicated. I say this all the time, but it's kind of like what you were saying with the like theoretical cult leader or whatever. Like, he once was that kid and now he's doing this, but like, what is he looking for? What caused that? Where does the buck stop?
Yeah, he may already have decided that, there is no mentor for him, and so
Yeah.
he's using his, probably, I mean, for the better part of most society, misguided ideology, and then
Yeah.
passing that on to the lower ones.
Yeah.
Talking of like like the suits of armor, the red, the white, and the black. This dude was still wearing red, and now he's wearing pink armor. He's just very dedicated on passing the red down to more men clad in red.
Yep.
And that is a little vague there, but that's a whole other archetype, that we could cover some other time, I guess.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to talk about archetypes, and we should do that in another episode.
I mean, this one's kind of a big one. There are archetypes in the male wisdom. Like each one almost is not exactly, but it's a little bit of a something.
Yeah.
It's touching. There's a whole bunch of different things that go along with male wisdom. Out of all the ones that I collected, I kind of broke them up into 4 categories, but it's a little more complicated than that. I don't think the 4 categories really give it justice. But of the 4 that I decided to lump them into, there's old man wisdom in the realm of masculinity. There's fatherhood and being a husband. There's money in career. And then depravity, women, and sex. And those ones get pretty bad. So we're probably not going to say any of those ones here.
It reminds me of the book Way of the Superior Man, which I know we've both read.
Well, it's fantastic.
Where he talks about how, like, when you don't have a firm foundation, you're going to fall victim to a lot of different things. Like someone who doesn't have a firm grasp on what they desire sexually and what they enjoy sexually and what they, what they're, the way that they were formed, is going to be into some wild stuff, and a lot of it could be violent, but if you have self-awareness and if you really pay attention to yourself and really learn, then you'll kind of understand what you're craving and what you need, and that'll kind of change things up a little bit. But.
Yeah, without proper development, you can put these emotions or I guess emotions is the right word, these emotions that lead to, depraved or violent acts, put them in the wrong places, and then they'll manifest themselves on somebody typically weaker than yourself.
Oh yeah. I feel like this is a good time to talk about it. So there was this guy named Eric Erickson. He was a psychologist, and he came up with these stages of development. And Dewey Freeman was in my academic lineage. Speaking of mentorship and things, he taught the people that taught me, and he was brilliant, and he kind of reframed Erickson's stuff. But when we're going through life, we have these hurdles that we have to go through. Like when you're a kid, there's one called autonomy versus self-doubt. And you have to encounter stressful things in your life where you can learn, like, yes, I can be autonomous. I can do this. I can handle this. In Dewey Freeman's version, it's like, is the world okay? Or am I okay? I guess am I okay? Can I run into something that's stressful and run into something that's difficult, and can I overcome it? If the answer is yes, then you move on and you can go into the next, level. But if you don't, then you're in this realm of self-doubt where you're going to be spiraling out of control. And there's a bunch of different phases of that. So, at the very tippy top of the triangle is like self-actualization. It's the perfect human being. It's, Keanu Reeves or something. And then in the middle, there's all these stages. And when you go through a traumatic event, you go all the way back down to the bottom, generally. Trauma knocks you straight down to the bottom. Suddenly you're asking yourself, is the world okay? Well, no, it isn't, because I just got hit by a semi-truck. So the world is not okay. Or am I okay? Well, I was driving a semi-truck and I just crashed into this family van. So no, I'm not okay. Which is why a lot of times I'll say, condescendingly quite a bit, which is on me, but whatever, that there are adult children everywhere. There's adult teenagers everywhere, because you reach these levels and then you stay there. And if you can't keep progressing through where you should be in life, then you're going to start lashing out. This is what brought me to it, was when you were talking about people lashing out. So if you don't develop sexually to where you need to be, you're going to have some pretty wild sex stuff. Or if you don't develop socially well enough, then you're going to be, gossiping at work, and you're going to be like stirring trouble and, doing all kinds of crazy stuff, because that's just where you are.
That is just rampant.
Oh, it's everywhere.
Oh, gosh.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Not that, and what I should say is that there's, even though it comes off that way, and it is sometimes gets you in trouble, but there's nothing actually wrong with this.
No, it's just
how people are.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing, not that there's anything wrong with it, especially if you're not doing anything wrong to anyone else,
Yeah. But when you do start lashing out, which in different developments, a lot of times it happens.
There's a tendency.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, think about serial killers who have abusive parents who never tell them that they love them, so then they never get past that point of infancy.
Yeah, all the way into that adulthood.
Yep.
Like adulthood by the definition of age. You are this many years, so technically adults, but are you really?
Yeah, then you have adults who don't even know it, but they're just craving their mother's attention. All they want is just for their mom to say, like, "Oh, I love you and I'm so proud of you." That's it. But they'll never get it because the parents have their own issues, but maybe they'll find it somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. So how do we, as a society, or as any of the individuals who may, land in those categories, further ourselves in the absence of the things that we missed out on?
I feel like you know me well enough that you know what I'm going to say.
I won't predict the future.
No, go to therapy.
Go to therapy.
For all these questions.
Yeah, because ultimately, it's within you to pull that out of yourself or recognize what is there and then seek development.
Yeah. No one is ever going to understand the inner Nick or the inner Spencer better than Nick or Spencer. But it's so helpful in having someone who knows really well how to help you navigate that into finding yourself. They're not going to be an expert on you, but they're an expert on helping you find what you're looking for there.
Absolutely.
It changes everything.
Mm-hmm. That, and then also your own self-determination to make the changes that need to be made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really tough. Change is really, really tough.
Sure is, man. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there who, and I was one of them for a long time, who neglect to do these things because of what it might do to others, what it might do to their current situation, like life situation, what it might do to them. Will this be difficult for me is the question. And the answer is almost always yes, absolutely.
100%, yep.
But does it need to be
no
done?
One grows when they're comfortable.
No. There's a cost to everything.
Yeah.
Nothing in this world or any other world is free, ever.
Yep.
There's always a price.
Yep.
Whether you pay that in, some level of anguish or actual monetary value. Nothing's free.
Nothing's free. I think I just heard a quote and you just reminded me of it. It was like the sword that's forged without a fire isn't even a sword, or something like that. You gotta step into the heat if you're gonna turn yourself into a sword.
Sounds about right.
A big way to do that I know you are a big fan of is habits and
Yes.
routine. I think that's a really good way to kind of get from 0 to 1 mile an hour and then 1 to 5. It's that going from 0 to 1 that's the hard part.
Yeah, but once you start picking up momentum, the 1 mile an hour increments, or in this book that I'm reading currently called Beyond Brawn. It's a weightlifting book. He talks about the long scale goals, right? It just like a hat with your habits. You take it teeny bit by teeny bit by teeny bit, and you focus on that teeny bit. And before you know it, that teeny bit has added up to something enormous, and you're sailing.
That's fantastic.
In the book Atomic Habits, I believe it calls it the law of aggregate change. I probably have said this already a handful of times.
Go for it.
The law of aggregate change is you do something little every day, and it will get you towards your goal exponentially. It's like compounding interest in a bank account. It just builds exponentially, and I think the imagery he used to explain it was ice. The ice is like liquid water, or solid water. Ice is frozen from negative like 1 billion degrees all the way up to 32 degrees. So it's always ice, and then you just add 1 degree little by little by little by little by little until you hit 32, and all of a sudden an amazing phase shift changes, and it's something completely new, completely different.
Yep. That's
and
awesome.
You just apply that towards the little things that you do.
I think that makes sense. It's like, today I'm gonna drink water instead of a soda, and then after a week of drinking water, it's not even a thing anymore, and I've already moved on to I'm gonna spend 10 minutes less on my cell phone, and before I know it, I'm only drinking water and I'm not spending any time on my cell phone. That's
Absolutely.
fantastic. That's so cool.
Yeah, little bits by little bits, and there's so much more to habits as well. We get into systems and whatever, but that's for a whole other episode.
Yeah,
So
we'll be doing a habits episode that hopefully will have some pretty good structure around.
We have to get into the habit of having good structure.
Oh well. So I feel like we pretty much covered this today, and I'm wondering if we can end with maybe a quote or two about manhood, and get like a real image of like old man wisdom, like actual
Absolutely
words. And I know you've got a couple prepared, and I've got one. So let's have one from you, one from me, and then one more from you. Does that sound good?
Okay. All right. I gotta see which one I want. I think I'll start with this one. Yeah. Okay. I know my two. So the first one that I'm going to use is by Tony Soprano.
Okay.
And even though he's not a real character, it's still old man wisdom, still counts. Those who want respect, give respect. I like that one a lot.
Simple, elegant, very nice, very nice. And it's true too. You attract what you put out. If you're walking around being a jerk all the time, you're going to attract jerks back, because you're going to make everybody angry. Yeah. So if you're respectful, you're going to get respect back. Love it.
I feel like there's a lack of respect in this world, and it comes from some of those undeveloped men that we were speaking about earlier.
Have you ever seen a Rodney Dangerfield movie?
I've seen a few.
Like, no respect. Nobody gives me any respect. All right. So mine is not as entertaining, but it is to me. Robert Augustus Masters. I love that name. He says, being a man has very little to do with trying to be a man, and a lot to do with being present and trustworthy, grounded and transparent, and showing up as a warrior of integrity and intimacy, compassionately cutting through the roots of whatever is obstructing one's well-being.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah.
That's a good one. There's a Yeah, let's hear it one more time.
Okay. Being a man has very little to do with trying to be a man, and a lot to do with being present and trustworthy, grounded and transparent, and showing up as a warrior of integrity and intimacy, compassionately cutting through the roots of whatever is obstructing one's well-being. I think the key word there is compassionately. This guy is
passionately and
brilliant.
in integrity. I believe we spoke about this before in another episode or a previous episode, to never lie and how important that is.
Yeah.
And when he says integrity and transparency, I think that's what he's implying is you operate in total honesty.
And if you mess up, you stand up and you admit that you messed up and you fix it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's,
By the way,
that's a good one.
Bill Koth called this the Classic Handbook for Men, and you too can own the Classic Handbook for Men to be a man for a very cheap price from thriftbooks.com.
Thriftbooks.com. Maybe that'll be my free book that I've earned. That one will be fun.
I don't know if you can get it cheap enough. I had to buy it new, but they also sell new books.
They do. If they say free, they didn't tell me that there was like a price limit. You know.
Stop. We're gonna lose our magic sponsorship.
Our imaginary sponsorship with the people who sell used books. We got. You know what? We should email them after this. We have no one listening. Thriftbooks.com.
Be a better man.
I'll tell you more about my books that I'm getting in the mail here in the week. Okay, that one was awesome. That was an amazing quote.
Finish this off.
Touched on a lot. And it only fitting that it came out of a book called "To Be a Man." So that was wonderful.
He's brilliant.
So I'll do one more. I mean, like I had a lot on here. I have even more in my little notebook that I've been writing all these down in. And I will get more. It is my goal to get more. But here's one that I will end this on. And I like this one a lot because this is kind of how I like to take my life anyway. This is one of the things that I consider myself to be highly versed in, whereas you are the therapist, psychologist. You have the proper know-how of the human psyche, and where I strive is more in the physical well-being.
Yeah.
And so this quote is from Ralph Waldo Emerson, and he said, "The first wealth is health."
Ooh, yeah.
And that's very, very important. And I have a couple other quotes on here that are health related. But that, as a tidbit of old man wisdom, I mean, I've heard that from, in not those exact words, but I've heard that from
all over the
plenty
place.
of other men. Yeah.
All over the place.
And it's super true. And I hold that one tight. And just be healthy always.
If you don't have your health, you don't have anything.
Yeah, physically and mentally. Keep it all in check.
Awesome.
That is up to you as the individual to do. Like, yeah.
Let's keep growing. Build those habits. We got this.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. That was a really good episode. Thanks for hanging in there with us. I want to do my little disclosure statement before we go. Just remember, this is not intended to diagnose or treat any mental health disorders. This is just for entertainment. Everything that we've said here is Nick and mine's opinions. It's not intended to be fact or anything like that. If you are having issues that are serious, reach out, get some help. There's the National Crisis Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. If you feel like you or the people around you are in danger, then you need to call 911. There is no shame in getting help. We have to support each other. We have to be mentors for each other. We can do this. All right, guys. Take care of yourselves.